Hello, my fellow Awafrians, I'm Mr. Church. In this video, I'm going to be showing you my ghoul big iron build, and my pistol build that I've made here is what I think is sort of unique, and that it also incorporates a very important element to having a big iron on your hip, and that is, of course, pistol whipping. Now, before I show you the perks that I'm running, I'm going to show you my gear, because the gear actually makes a big difference to the build. So the big iron that I'm using is a single action revolver, furious with bash damage and faster reload, and then I have bullies, which when attacking outside of VATS, I deal 50% bonus weak point damage. And I've primed it. This says it does 65% damage to Scorched, but it also just does more base damage. There's only 2 mods that you can have on the single action revolver, and it's literally prime in the ivory grip, and that's it. So something interesting about this weapon is I've always preferred the sound and feel of the single action revolver over the Western revolver, but the Western has always done more damage and has available mods. You can mod it out, and you just can't really mod this weapon. So it's always been worse. Also, let's not forget, this actually, you reload 1 bullet at a time, whereas the Western revolver, you can reload all of them at once. But I've always preferred it. And then, miraculously, when they did their overhaul to the base damage of revolvers, this weapon got a big buff, and now it actually does more damage than the Western revolver. And so that makes me really happy, so we can actually min-max our damage with the weapon that I actually wanted to use, which is the single action revolver. Now, unfortunately, when you reload, like I said, it takes 300 days for your weapon to reload, and that's going to be fine. We have faster reload on it, but there's an even better way that we're going to be reloading this weapon, so we don't even have to worry about it. Now, for my armor, I'm going to be running solar armor. Now, solar armor, when you have a full set, it regenerates 4 HP a second for you and nearby teammates, while your health is above 60%. Now, this is nice to have because when you have glow, your health is always above 60% damage, so you actually have to lose 50% of your available health before you even have to start worrying about your solar armor not working at all. And so in the meantime, you can be healing your teammate. But the most important reason why I want to run solar armor, there's actually a couple of reasons. It has low radiation resistance, which we want as a ghoul. It's also light armor. And of the available light armor, this one makes the most sense for me to wear. I don't need covert, scout, and I don't need thorn because stealth isn't going to be helpful for me. And thorn only procs on melee damage. It doesn't proc on bash damage. And solar armor gives me a set buff, which does benefit me, and I will show you there's another important way. Now, some people say that solar armor is no good on a ghoul because, like I said, you don't heal until you lose all that glow, so like that could also be a point against it, right? But there's something interesting about the way that glow works and the way that rads heal ghouls. And if you are missing glow and you take some rads, it'll just pop right up so quickly. That's a huge, quick heal. If you're missing health and you use anything that gives you radiation, it'll heal you just a tiny, tiny bit and you won't get extra glow. It is very, very poor healing your health versus giving you glow. So I don't want to be in a situation where I need to stim, then use glow if I'm in combat. And in combat, you run out of glow all the time. So you're going to have to use your radiation, whatever means of getting radiation that you have in combat constantly. I'm using toxic goo. If you try to heal yourself with radiation before your HPs are full, meaning you try to get glow before then, it's just not going to work. It's going to be very inefficient. It's going to be very slow. And you're going to end up wasting a lot of toxic goo wasting a lot of time trying to get your glow back. So, having a thing that's constantly healing me, even in combat, is going to be very nice. So this is going to give me plus 4 HP, and then I have a perk card that's also going to be healing me in combat, which is going to add to that as well. Anytime I'm taking damage, I'm constantly healing, so there's a much lower chance of me actually running out of health, and that allows me to pop the goo and glow up much quicker. Now, the mods that I'm running on the armor are a mixed bag. On the chest piece, I'm running dents. Obviously, I put the polymer mods on all of this. That gives me the most damage and energy resistance. A lot of times in the past, I ran armor that had ultra light, but with the changes to adamantium skeleton, I'm actually going to be doing something different. And now I'm going to be running a piece of dents. This is going to really help against explosive damage. That chews your glow up so quickly, and it also keeps you from getting staggered as easily. 3 of the limbs I'm running strengthened, and strengthened isn't even available on all armor sets. That's another good reason that I want to run solar. And strengthened gives you plus 20% limb damage resistance. Now, adamantium skeleton was nerfed, and now it doesn't give you full limb damage resistance. It instead scales with your endurance, and I can get my limb damage resistance up to about 40 some percent. So 40%, and then I have 3 limbs with strengthened, so that's 40 plus 60. It gets me over 100% limb damage resistance. I should basically never take limb damage, and you don't want to take limb damage as a ghoul, because a stim is the only way to heal a limb that's broken, and you don't want to have to take stims because it's annoying. I only want to have to use rads. And on the last piece, just because there's nothing else that I would really need, I have ultra light, and that gives me a little bit of AP because the ghoul does chew through AP pretty yucky. For legendary effects, it looks like I have just a bunch of garbage I picked up, but I actually chose these effects very carefully. Now, Overeaters doesn't work with ghouls because we can't eat and drink and get full, and so we're never going to get the resistance from Overeaters. So for a full health, that's usually the best choice to have, but a ghoul can't actually benefit from it. So what do we want to run instead? Vanguards, I have a couple of pieces of these because, just like with the solar armor effect, I'm not going to start losing the 35 damage and energy resistance until my glow is fully gone. So I basically have a full health bar to go through before my vanguards start to have any issues whatsoever. So that is going to be kind of fun to have. So I have 2 of those, and that gets me up to about 350 damage and energy resistance, which is where you start to feel the diminishing returns. There's a soft cap on resistances, and so you start feeling that around 350, 400 damage and energy resistance. So I just have 2 of these pieces, which gets me up to that number. And then for the last 3, I have a troubleshooter's piece. This reduces damage from robots by 15%. And then I tried to think of what are the most annoying mobs, or what effects are going to cover the most number of dangerous mobs, because there's obviously too many types to have every piece of mob-specific gear. So I chose hunters because there are some animals that will this affects, for Yaoguai, for example. I believe Deathclaws as well. And so that's going to be 15% less damage from those creatures. And then I chose Zealots, not because of the Scorched, but because of Scorch Beasts. The sonar attack can blast quite a bit of your glow off. And also, when you're at the Queen, any Scorched creature counts for this effect. So this will give me a huge kind of, basically covers a lot of my bases in that situation. Now, this is just because there's not really any other great options, so just reducing damage from those specific creatures by as much as I can is just a little thing I can do, but it's not like obviously great because the ghoul doesn't really have any great options for legendary effects, and that's something that I hope that they will think about adding. One thing that I hope they add whether it's a legendary effect or a perk card or a legendary perk card even, is some way for us to passively take radiation or glow, something similar to healing factor, so that we're not wasting all of our resources in between fights getting our glow back to 100%. We should have some way that if we're sitting and hidden fully, we should have a way of getting our glow back all the way. And that's just my opinion, but I think it would really be a nice quality of life for ghouls. For some of these pieces, I have powered, and then I have a poison resistance one, and then the rest of them are powered. So I've all the AP refresh, just because the ghouls AP is kind of sketchy. And for the third star, I have 3 pieces that have sentinels, which has been reworked to now do minus 5% damage while not moving. So that's 15% less damage taken if I'm just standing there. It's not great, but it is better than the other options that I have. If you have a full set of this, it's not bad, but it's genuinely just not anywhere near as good as it used to be, bugged or not. For the other 2 pieces, I have minus 50% fall damage, the acrobats pieces. With 2 pieces of this, you obviously take 0% fall damage. Anybody might be wondering, why do you need that on a set of armor that you can't even have a jetpack with? It's something that you might overlook when you're just thinking about putting a build together, but when you're running around in the world and you jump off a little bit of a ledge and you take a little bit of fall damage, most of us run healing factor, and we immediately, our health pops right back to where it was. Now, if you're a ghoul, like I said, we don't have a way of gaining our glow passively yet, and so that just eats up a little bit of your glow at a time, and then you have to manage your glow. You have to take some goo or shoot the ground with a gamma gun or something to get your glow back up. And that's really annoying, but it can also be bad in combat, because this is also your health, and it's also a resource that you use while you're fighting, so you don't want anything taking your glow. If there's something that you can do to avoid taking glow, then you want to do it, because your glow is like your most powerful asset as a ghoul. This is a way to make sure that anytime I take any kind of fall damage, that's not taking my glow. And it also, there's a lot of cliffs and stuff around, and I can just jump off them and I'm fine. So it is also a fun way to play. I like to be able to just not take fall damage in general, even if I don't have a jetpack. Now, you may have already read this while I was ranting and raving, but the last piece that I have, the last legendary effect I have on the full set is battle loaders. Now, if you saw my video where I ranked all the 4-star legendary armor, by the way, I am going to be doing a 4-star weapon one, but I was waiting to see if they were going to be doing the weapon rework stuff, because I think it will affect what I do. So that is, I still plan on doing that, by the way, just so if anyone was wondering. But my armor video, you may have, if you saw that, you will have maybe remember that I said battle loaders was F tier, okay? And it is, don't get me wrong, but this, I found an edge case where it's actually viable and fun and kind of silly. So you may have remembered what I said earlier about how the single action revolver takes 55 days to reload, because you have to reload 1 bullet at a time, and this is absolutely terrible. Well, this allows me, while I'm fighting, to run up to the enemy and slap them in the face, and it reloads my weapon. Now, it's a 75% chance with all 5 pieces, and so almost every time it will reload. And something that I noticed that I didn't think was a thing but actually is, you can retry. If you hit an enemy and it fails, you can hit that same enemy for a chance of it working. So if I hit an enemy to proc the reload and it doesn't work, on that off chance that it doesn't work, I can hit that same enemy, assuming they're not dead yet, and most of the time, the second time, it will reload. And then I can usually finish them off by shooting them in the face, or they might already be dead. Because what I was surprised to find is that I'm actually doing a fuckload of damage with my bash attacks. The Under Armor that I've chosen is the Shielded Vault Suit. This is for 3 reasons. The endurance. The more endurance you have, the higher your glow is, because the amount of glow you have is directly proportioned to how much HP you have. So the higher your endurance, the more glow. Now, luck is important because it gives me a higher chance for my ricochet to go off, which is really nice when I'm getting shit on. And intelligence is good because I want to be a little bit smarter. I'm not really using any food buffs or anything like that. I will take a company tea now and then, just for some AP regen. I will eat a pemmican, just because I have it, and it gives me, like I said, endurance will pop that up quite a bit. And, of course, you can always chew on some toxic goo if you don't have enough radiation or glow or whatever. And you can just collect this from West Tech, just go into the green area and just hit collect, and then you can get it for free, or you can, there's a collector thing on the scoreboard you can get and put in your camp, so that other people can steal it. So let's take a look at the build. I'm going to show you what I have for legendary effects right now. I have 14 in strength, 3 in perception, 12 in endurance, 4 in charisma, 4 in intelligence, 13 in agility, and 6 in luck. And this is going to be greatly affected by if you have these legendary specials. This is going to obviously alter what that base damage number is if you don't have these ones. So I have, obviously this is not maxed out yet. That'll give me 3 more points in agility, and this will give me 2 more points in endurance, which I can then move around as I please. And then I only have 1 star of this, and I only ever will have 1 star of this. You don't really need this at all. I wanted to run taking 1 for the team just to get a little more damage. It seems to be bugged out, and it's affecting my onslaught stacks, and I don't need that in my life, to be honest. But you don't really need this to be maxed out. It's just a little nice quality of life thing to get passive feral depletion without having to worry about having drugs. So as we've been standing here talking, my feral meter is going down, and I'm just going to go start shooting stuff, and then I'll go back up in no time at all. And this is what I'm running for my perks. Now, first of all, I'm running Traveling Pharmacy. What I forgot to mention before is I'm also running a Grocer's Backpack. I have the small one because I haven't finished the quest to get the real backpack yet, but the Grocer's reduces my food and drink weight by 90%, so I don't need to run through Hiker. And of course, if I finish the quest, I'll get 30 more carry weight. So right now this is only giving me 30 carry weight just because it's a small backpack. But anyway, the Grocer's Backpack frees up 2 slots in endurance that I would otherwise have. Remember that toxic goo is food, so food and drink weight is important if you are a ghoul and you want to run toxic goo. But so that means for once in my measly life, the only weight reduction perk that I'm running is Traveling Pharmacy. It's actually a miracle. And then I'm also running Basher. Now, if I'm going to be reloading by slapping enemies, I might as well get some damage while I'm doing it. So that was my thought process going into the build. So I have Basher, and then I also have Radioactive Strength. This expends a moderate amount of glow to deal 150% more damage with power attacks and bashing. And it's actually really, really strong. I was surprised how strong it is. Like, if I have glow and I hit somebody, or if I don't have glow and hit somebody, the difference in damage is astronomical. And it might be bugged or something. That might be why I'm doing so much damage. But there's also a weird rubber banding that's happening. Like I'm doing too much damage or something. There are times when I'm getting hit numbers of over 10,000, and I'm still not one-shotting certain creatures. So there's definitely something weird going on where I can bash for like 6,000 damage and not kill something, and then hit it for 1,000 damage and kill it in one shot. So there's something weird that's going on there. But basically, this card is making this build so fun and hilarious. And of course, remember, every time we do this, it reloads our weapon. so we can basically always shoot. We never have to worry about sitting around reloading. I also have blocker. This is for melee attacks. Everything I'm doing here to take less damage is just to reserve my glow. Because I'm going to be bashing, I'm going to be up close and personal with a lot of creatures, so I want to be taking less melee damage because this will chew my glow up pretty quickly. So this helps with that. I have Arms of Steel. This is allows me to have better weapon accuracy. And then Brick Wall. This one isn't really necessary, but staggering does interrupt certain attacks. If you try to gun bash, if you get staggered in the middle of that, it will cancel your bash and you have to do it again. The art on it's cool though, am I right? Now, unfortunately, a few updates back, they changed it so bash damage is no longer affected by strength. If that was the case, this would be a lot more strong and I'd be hitting way harder. Hopefully they redo that. I don't know why they did that because bashing is really fun. I made a whole gun bash build before, which I'll link in the description. You should check it out. It's pretty fun. Keep in mind that was before all these changes and updates were made. But it does suck because if that was the case, I would put +3 strength on my weapon instead of faster reload, and I would be doing even more damage with it. It'd be pretty fun. Something that I don't know if I explicitly said before, but obviously we're running bullies on the weapon, which means we're not going to be using VATS. We're free aiming only. And so there's no VATS cards in this build, and it's more for free aiming and having a good time. In Perception, I have Tank Killer, which now applies to pistols as well, and this is mostly for the armor penetration. I'm not too worried about the staggering. Then we have Crack Shot. This allows me to have better accuracy when I'm aiming down the sights, which I will be doing. And Grenadier, I just have a little bit of a problem where I want to blow everything up, and so there is a second thing happening with this build that I maybe didn't mention. And that's dynamite, hoes. That's dynamite. We're going to be chucking dynamite left and right. It doesn't really do that much damage compared to, real grenades that you want to use. But we are a cowboy. Why would we use anything but dynamite? I don't think these kitchen timers were invented yet, but that's fine. Don't worry about it. Look at this side of it only. There's probably just a normal wick on the other side of that. Not a kitchen timer from Target. So that's good. Duct tape. That was okay. Let's get out of here. Because we're running with dynamite, we're also going to be using Bomb Scientist, which expending glow makes your thrown grenades deal 50% more damage, and Demolition Expert, which allows them to do 60% more damage. In Endurance, I'm running Life Giver. Remember, maximizing Endurance maximizes your glow, so this is a really strong card. Adamantium Skeleton, this is what I was mentioning before when I was talking about armor. Limb damage reduction is now based on your endurance, and it does say in your Pip-Boy, you can actually look and see how much it's doing, which is really nice. 42% limb damage is what I have, so if I have 42% limb damage from this, and then 60% from my armor, that gets me over 100%, and I'm good to go. I'm also running Fireproof to take less damage from explosions, my own, and flame attacks. This will also help reserve glow and keep me a little more tanky. Taking 10% less damage from ballistic attacks will also help keep me tanky as well. This is kind of a lot of perk space for only 10% less damage. That only applies to ballistic. And I believe it's only ballistic because the raids have a lot of energy attacks and they don't want to make ghouls too strong in there for some reason. But that is something that does help keep your glow. Radiation Power, now this is one of the strongest cards that the ghoul has. Expend a small amount of glow per hit to deal 20% bonus damage to targets. Of course, this does use up your glow, so you'll have to stay on top of that. And if you're bashing, that is also going to be using glow because of the radioactive strength. So keep that in mind. As you fight, you will need to keep taking the glow. Now, Glowing Gut, irradiated food and drink grant 300% more rads. When I was first messing around with the ghoul in the PTS, I believe this card was bugged because it was not giving me 300% more rads. There's no way it was giving me that. I was drinking toxic goo with this equipped, and I was only taking 50 rads, and that's how much I could get. And so when I made my ghoul guide video, which I'm going to link as well, by the way, in case there's anything about the ghoul that I'm talking about that doesn't make any sense, I probably will have gone over it in that. But in that video, I say that using a gamma gun is the best way to get your glow back up. And the reason I said that is because glowing gut, when I had made that video, didn't seem to be working. But it seems to be working now in the live game. So I am using this with toxic goo, which, by the way, is the best way to keep your glow up, better than the gamma gun, because it's an instant burst of glow, and you don't need to swap your weapon. Now in Charisma, I'm obviously going to be running Strange in Numbers, and I will show what my mutations are right now, actually. But Strange in Numbers, by the way, is one of the strongest cards in the game. You just have to be on a team with someone, which I am not. Most people have mutations, and that's the only criteria for the buff. So as long as you're on a team with someone with mutations, you get the buff. But you won't see that reflected in my stats right now because I'm not on a team with anybody. But I'm running Bird Bones. This is for the fall speed because falling quickly is annoying, but it's also for the +4 agility, which it's just good to have as much AP as possible if you're a ghoul. Carnivore, even though we don't get any benefit from eating and drinking, we still get food buffs from eating and drinking. So we won't get the health or the food because we don't have a hunger bar anymore, but we can still get the buff for, like, for example, pemmican gives me the +6 endurance, and if I'm on a team with someone that has mutations, I'm going to get +8 endurance from that, which is a massive amount and massive boost to my glow. Grounded, because I'm running with a ballistic weapon and I'm just using a revolver, I can go ahead and use grounded just for free energy resistance without any drawbacks. Healing factor, this is just a quality of life thing if you're out of combat and you don't have, and I'm not really using chem, so I don't need to worry about the negatives of that. Herd mentality is one of the best mutations because if you're on a public team, even if you're by yourself, you still get the benefit of herd mentality. So you basically always have +2 or +3 specials, depending on if someone is on a team with you. And so it's just good to have on all your characters, in my opinion. Marsupial, obviously, I don't need to tell you why I'm running that. Speed Demon as well. There's 0 negatives for Speed Demon if you're a ghoul because you don't get hungry and thirsty, so you are just getting free movement speed and faster reload speed, which is always amazing. Twisted Muscles, it doesn't say this here, but Twisted Muscles also buffs your bash damage, and so that's why I'm running that, even though it does hurt my gun accuracy a little bit. I have enough other things that are buffing my accuracy that it's not really a big deal. And then Unstable Isotope, this hardly ever goes off. When it does, and it deals 80 rads to melee attackers, I was hoping the rads would also afflict me with radiation, but they don't seem to, so you don't really need to run this if you don't want to. It's just, it doesn't really go off that often anyway. So I wouldn't worry about it if I were you. In Charisma, I'm also running United Ordeal. While on a team with another ghoul, you gain +3 to all special stats. Now, this is a really good card, but it's hard to tell when you're on a team with another ghoul because there's no indication on the team. There should be like that little radiation thing like there is in the main menu next to your name, or like maybe at the end of your health bar, just so people can tell you if you're a ghoul or not. But one way that I've been checking is I hop on a team and then I open my quick boy, not my pip boy, but my quick boy. And as you can see with this menu open, you can kind of see this weird orange overlay to my health. That's my glow. When my glow goes down, that little amount of stuff will start to go down. And you can see this on other people's health bars. So if you open up your quick boy while you're on a team, you can see if someone has radiation, like the glow on them or not. And so if they do, then you'll know it's a ghoul. Sometimes, obviously, a ghoul won't have glow, so you won't see anything. Now, I've already talked about 2 of the cards in intelligence, but I'm also running Science Monster. While you have glow, you gain 15% bonus damage for 10 seconds upon getting hit. So this is just adding extra damage. You're going to keep your glow up while you're fighting, so this will always be proccing, and that's just adding 50% damage to your already 20% damage that you get from this. So it's just a nice little way that ghouls get a fuckload of damage from glow. Now in agility, I'm going to be using the onslaught mechanic, and I'm running a furious weapon. So I do have a whole video where I explain the mechanics of onslaught, so I'm not going to go into it in this video, but I'm going to link that one in the description if you want to check it out. But basically what I want to do is I want to maximize my onslaught stacks to get them as high as I possibly can. And then because I'm using a slow rate of fire weapon, I'm going to be running Gunslinger Master, and this will make it so that my stacks build over time instead of decay over time, and when I shoot my weapon, it uses up a stack. And so I can pretty much keep that full because this weapon I'm using is not a very fast firing weapon. So I'm using every card that adds to my max stacks, including Master and Gunslinger Expert and Gorilla Expert, even though I don't really care about the reload speed from this. It's just for the stacks. This one gives me range damage to close enemies per stack, and also gives me 5 stacks. This is actually really nice because it's I start off with it maxed out, so I have just a ton of like range damage, and I'm going to be pretty close to the enemies so that I can bash them anyway. I'm also running Hyper Reflexes. When your glow is high, you gain a 20% evasion chance. Now, in the PTS right now, they're nerfing evasion, and it's going to not only scale with your armor, but it's going to scale with how much damage you take. I don't know if that's going to go to the live game. I hope it doesn't. I hate that. That's way too big a nerf to that, in my opinion. Because most things that give evasion already have a pretty strict set of requirements to proc anyway, and now they've introduced the cooldown. Keep in mind, Serendipity also uses the evasion chance, and so does the card Evasive, so those will get nerfed as well. But basically, this one is just a flat 20% as long as you have high glow, and high glow is just if your glow is over 60%. So as long as your glow is over 60%, you will gain the 20% evasion chance, and that's pretty nice to have. And remember how I said we're using light armor? One of the reasons is so that we have the slowest cooldown, because right now the cooldown for evade is based on the weight of your armor, and light armor has the lowest amount of time, the lowest cooldown, so it'll be able to proc the most often with light armor versus heavy armor, which is why I'm running, one of the reasons why I wanted to run light armor. And the other card in agility is ranged weapons do 12% weak spot damage. I only have a 2-star of this, so it's actually 9% weak spot damage. And the reason why I only have the 2-star is because I wanted to max out everything else here. So that's as much as I could fit. But having all these things that add to my weak spot damage is going to add up over time. Remember, we're running bullies, which gives me weak spot damage. And I'm also, this one gives me ranged weak spot damage per onslaught stack, 1%. So if I have all 30 stacks, I have 30% ranged weak spot damage, 39% with both of these. Over here in luck, I'm also going to be running faulty spots, which adds to my weak spot damage 15 more. And so add that to bullies, and we're doing a lot of damage to weak spots. Now, weak spot is the yellow number, by the way, in case I didn't say this before. It isn't necessarily the head, but most creatures, the weak spot is the head. Some of them, it's different. Like a Gulper and a Deathclaw, it's their belly, for example. The Grafted monster, it's I gotta be honest with you, the blowhole. And so if you hit something and you get a yellow number, that's not a crit hit. That is their weak spot. So if you hit their special area with this build, you'll be doing thousands of damage. And I'm also running Bloodied Mess for another 15% damage. Just good to have. Ricochet, this is going to help, again, keep our glow up. Anything that can help deflect or mitigate incoming damage is going to help not just us stay alive, but help us do more damage, because the longer we can have high glow, the more of that glow we can put into our attacks, and do more damage with. Class Freak is just good to run, just so we don't have the horrific negative effects of our mutations. And Battle Genes, I mentioned this before when I was going over the solar armor, but when we have this and we have solar armor together, we have 8 HP a second while we're in combat, which is going to really help us keep that glow, so that when we need to fill our glow back up, our health is already full, and so it won't chew up our glow or our toxic goo to just do a tiny bit of healing, because that's really annoying. I was really surprised at how much damage this build did, because I initially made it in the PTS when I was testing out onslaught and ghoul stuff when that first came into the PTS. And I just made a revolver build to be silly, and I was surprised at how much damage it was doing, and so I decided to keep tinkering around with it and get a fun build that would also incorporate some other fun stuff that you might not see in other builds, just to be something special and different and also spooky. The way it works is pretty good, because even though it's kind of a clown shoe time, it does enough damage where it's not even like that much of a joke, and it also helps reload your weapon, which means you can keep shooting. So it's not even that bad of a concept, but it will be much better if they can fix whatever is causing this rubber banding in bash damage, because I could be one-shotting everything with just bash damage if that wasn't happening. So I hope that that's something they fix or look into. I'm not sure what's going on with that, to be honest, because I don't know why they don't want us to have funny bash damage, because it's silly to have. But like I said already, if you have any questions about any of the ghoul mechanics that I'm talking about, or about any of the onslaught stuff, I have videos for both those things that I made. And also, I forgot to mention, but obviously I won't be feral during this build. I'll be staying wonderful, but I've just been feral while we've been talking here, because I've been sitting around getting feral. That's just something I do in real life anyway, and I wanted it to feel more immersive, so that's why that's been going on. If you enjoy this video, I do have a full playlist of other silly character builds. Keep in mind, a lot of them are before a lot of these changes were made to the game, so a lot of them won't be exactly the same now. I've been checking out the PTS on Twitch, by the way, and I stream on Twitch on Mondays and Fridays, so make sure you give me a follow over there if you want to come say hello. The link for that is in the description, as well as the link to my Discord if you want to join the Discord. It's a great community. I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to my patrons and channel members for your support. It really is so fun to make videos, you know, and build these things and show the stuff. And I wouldn't be able to do that without the support. So it really does mean a lot to me. If you're interested in supporting the channel in that way, the link for that is in the description. But I hope you guys have a wonderful time thinking about how you're not going to make this build because it's stupid. And I'll see you guys in the next video.